We're going.
It is the 30th of September. This is Rabbi Levitt, Pele Yoetz.
Okay. Pele Yoetz. And let's see over here. We did this long paragraph. Oh, and we did this. We did. Oh, we got up to, I think, washing hands after the meal. On page 55.
Yeah, I see it.
That's where we are. So, Alan, would you like to start off today?
Sure. So the next to last paragraph, or is it at the meal of the mitzvah?
Washing on page 55,
Okay.
just a little bit below the middle of the page. This paragraph starts washing hands.
Okay, washing hands after the meal is an obligation, whether at home, outside, or on the road. Many people, especially travelers, violate this and neglect washing after the meal. One must be even more careful with his washing than the washing of the hands before the meal. A person who violates the words of the sages is liable for death penalty. Verse 4b, and according to one's pain, will be the reward. Person who violates the words of death penalty, and according to one's pain, will be his reward. What does that mean?
What does that mean? First thing I do here is always I try to look up in the Hebrew what the words are that he used. Let's see. Oh, don't have the place over here. Avelis. Una. Achilu Shasia. Okay, here we are. My machronim, yeah. Okay. That's what we're talking about. My machronim chova. That's the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch. It says it's an obligation. It's not simply a mitzvah. That if you want to do the mitzvah, it's good. If you want to not, this is a whole subject over here about my machronim. Some people are not careful with it. I guess that's why he's going out of his way to say that it's very, very important to do so. Because, again, the Gemara says that the mitzvah was because of Melech Sodomis, which was could blind a person. But today we don't see this. We don't see people becoming blinded by not washing my machronim because of the Melech Sodomis. So either it's not around, or Hashem has Rahmanas on the people who don't know any better, whatever it is. But truth to be told, he's saying over here, it's not simply just a minhag, it's a rabbinic prohibition. It's a rabbinic obligation, I should say. And so that's why he's invoking this statement of that the Gemara in Bracha says over al divrei chachamim, the one who violates the words of the sages. When the sages said to do something, they said to wash my machronim, and he says he doesn't he's not interested in doing that. So the Gemara is very strong. It says Chayv Misa. So that's a very that's about as strong as the Gemara can get in saying what they think about somebody who ignores the words of the sages. And this last expression, one according to one's pain will be his reward. This is their translation of the very well-known dictum that's brought in Chazal. It's in the way the language of Chazal is lefum tsara agra, which basically means that right, according to the amount that a person puts himself out in order to do a mitzvah, in order to do a even a rabbinic prohibition or a rabbinic injunction. The more he shouldn't think that, oh, it's for nothing that he's troubling himself to go and look for water, and he doesn't have any water, and it's not convenient, and this and that and the other thing. He's on the road. He says it happens most of the time on the road that people are not careful with this. But if he does go to the nth degree to make sure that he does the mitzvah, he has tremendous reward. In a certain sense, someone who follows the dictum of the sages, in a certain sense, it's an even greater expression of his emunah in Torah than someone who fulfills the obligation of what it says in the Torah, because he's showing how dear the Torah is to him, that even the words of the sages he's careful to fulfill. So you can't go wrong. It's such an easy, really, especially if you're in your house, it's such an easy thing to do, and you get a tremendous mitzvah for it. Today it's what they call like a mace mitzvah in some areas, that people are not careful with it, and somebody who is showing his regard for the words of the sages. It's brought in the Gemara. It's not a custom of 200 years ago. So it's worthwhile to make sure that you do it after a meal. The only obligation is after a meal of bread.
Isn't it the custom of the German Jews not to wash Mayim Achronim?
I don't know where they get the custom from. The Shulchan Aruch says it's a chov. And the Ramah doesn't say anything otherwise, to my knowledge. Maybe let me look that up just to make sure. What does the Ramah say?
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm late. I was helping my wife.
Oh. Okay, let's see here. My Machronim. Siman Kuf Pei Aleph in Shulchan Aruch. It's a siman in Shulchan Aruch. There's a whole siman in Shulchan Aruch that's devoted to it.
Wow.
Kuf Pei Aleph. Well, let's see what we have over here. Okay. Oh, wow. Look at this. He's got 10, there's 10 seifim, there's 10, it's not just one line in the Shulchan Aruch. It's, there's 10 seifim, there's 10 sections on this topic. And the first thing the Shulchan Aruch says is, My Machronim Chova. It's a binding obligation. Mishnah Berurah says over here, Hatam mishum shayadayim mezuhamos hein min achila upsoilis lebracha samchu chazal akra iskadishtem v'isem kedoshim iskadishtem elu mayim rishonim shikadshu yadehem kodem achila v'taram bituma Emotion is barla el besimin kufnan ches vayisem kedoshim elu mayim achronim. So the Mishnah Berurah says, he says that the reason for this injunction of Chazal is because the hands are mizuhamois. Minachila. They have food on them, leftover food, different as a result of the Suda, and they are psolis lebracha. It's not capable of making a bracha with such hands, says the Mishnah Berurah.
So this word, mizohamos, means dirty?
Yeah. This is taken actually from the Magen Avram and the Eliyahu Rabbah and other poskim on the Shulchan Aruch that they're also on these words of the Shulchan Aruch. What's the reason for the rabbinic injunction? And Chazal already learned out from a pasuk in Chumash. The pasuk says, "Iskadishtem ha'isem kadoshim." You should sanctify yourselves, and you will be kadosh. Iskadishtem, that you should sanctify yourselves. They understood that this was an allusion to the obligation to wash your hands before you eat bread. Bisem Kedoshim was an allusion to the fact that after the Suda, you should wash your hands a second time. before you say Birkas Hamazon. Well, this is interesting. V'afilu lemisha eino mavorech ba'atzmo, ela shomea lotzeis mipi hamavorech. Even if someone is not actually saying the words of the Birkas Hamazon himself, but he is listening and he is Yoetz with the words of the one who is saying the Birkas Hamazon, that person is being motzi him. Nevertheless, that person who's listening, he's certainly listening. He should not. He should also be careful to wash my makronim. That his hands should be clean, and not be have anything from the Suda on them. And even more than this, says the Mishnah Berurah. Afilu kishe'ein yodov mizohamos klal min achila. Even if a person's hands will not be at all dirty from the food that he has eaten, his hands are perfectly clean. He says, even in that case, gam ken chayvo Chazal benetilas mai machronim. Chazal made a injunction that he also has to wash my machronim after having his suda before he benches. But why? What's the reason for that? The reason for this is because of a concern for the salt of Sodom. The Bekol Suda Halo Nimsa Melach. Because at every Suda, like Meir was pointing out, there is Melach. V'yesh lachosh shema ma'orav behen ma'at mimelach Sodomis. And there is a concern that perhaps there was a bit of Melach Sodomis, a small amount of Melach Sodomis that was mixed into the Melech, to the salt that is on the table. Shemesame peinayim lemi shenogea bom. It has the ability, Rahman al-Itzlan, lo aleinu, to blind the eyes of the one who touches it. V'yachakach yiga be'enov. Right, he touches the salt, and then he touches his eyes, and that's a dangerous thing. And even today, says the Mishnah Berurah, in our days, she'ein motzui melech sodomis beinenu, says the Mishnah Berurah, we don't have melech sodomis anymore. Yesh lachosh lemelech acher shetivam kamosa. There is nevertheless it's warranted to be concerned for similar variants of this type of salt, which has the same perhaps the same properties as the melech sodomis. So that's what the Mishnah Berurah has to say. That's the Mishnah Berurah has to say about this. And he continues and continues and continues, and I don't see anywhere that the Ramah says that we have a different custom other than what the Shulchan Aruch says. Don't see that. So I don't know. Don't know what to tell you about the other customs. Let's see if there's anything over here. Maybe there's something here in the notes. Oh, they actually bring here from the Pele Yoetz. This is from the Dirshu edition of the Mishnah Berurah. They have notes that supplement the words of the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah. And first he quotes the Aruch HaShulchan, who is actually a contemporary of the Mishnah Berurah. Also wrote a halachic compendium on the halachas of that the Mishnah Berurah wrote on. And he says, they bring here his words, Kosev Aruch HaShulchan, Shehu Dafka b'melech Anasa b'misha b'mei hayam, sheyesh bo melech Sodomus. This is what we're talking about here is when there's salt, it's used from the sea. Salt that comes from how they make salt from the salt water of the sea, I guess. But salt that is mined from the mountains. Ein bo chashash zeh. There is no chashash whatsoever of melech Sodomus or any other variant thereof. Ulam b'Pele Yoetz. Here he quotes here the Pele Yoetz. Orach Netilas Yadayim. Pele Yoetz in a different section, a different entry other than the ones that we're talking about over here. Something that he wrote about Netilas Yadayim, about washing the hands. Kosev Sha'af Bismanenu Shemelech Sodomus Eino Motsui. The Pele Yoetz already said that in his day, which is perhaps like 150 years earlier than the Mishnah Berurah, there's not Melech Sodomus. It's not common to find Melech Sodomus. Vein sakana b'davar, and accordingly there is no danger in the matter. Mikom makom mutal aleinu chiyuv l'kayem es divrei chachamim. See, this is the issue over here. This is something that needs to be spoken out. Sha'af im eino mesama es einei habasar, mesama es einei haseichel v'hanefesh, shekol divrei chachamim roisha magia hashemayma v'sodam ram v'nisa. Okay, so the Pele Yoetz says something, which the Vilna Gaon also says the same idea in regard to another halacha of the sages, another rabbinic prohibition. He says, I'll just translate the words for you because they're very, very powerful. He says, even though we don't have Melech Sodomus, it's not found today, and therefore there's no sakana, there's no danger of the Melech Sodomus. So, nevertheless, it's incumbent upon all of us the obligation to fulfill the words of the sages. The sages said, "Wash my machronim after the Suda." That's a rabbinic injunction. Because even if it's not going to, even if not doing so, it's not going to result in blinding the eyes, the physical eyes that a person has. So he won't be able to see chas v'sholem. But not washing my machronim, says the Pele Yoetz, is going to result in blinding the eyes of the seichel and the nefesh, the spiritual eyes of a person that are sensitive to listening to the word of Hashem, who said to listen to what the sages tell us to do. Shekol divrei chachamim rosha magia hashemayma, yesodam ram v'nisa, because all the words of the chachamim, the head of those words, they reach up to the heavens, and the depths of the secrets that are contained in them are lofty and exalted. And here's what the Mishnah Berurah has to say about this. This is actually the last sif of the halachas of my machronim in the Shulchan Aruch. Oh, here we go. Here's what the Shulchan Aruch says. This is in Sif Yud. This is the last. If you're following in the Shulchan Aruch, this is Sif Yud in Simin Kuf Pei Aleph. The Shulchan Aruch acknowledges, he says, Yesh she'ein noagim litol mayim achronim. There are those who have a custom that they don't wash mayim achronim. V'afilu lenogim kain, but even according to those who follow this custom, Adam shehu istanis v'ragil litol yodav achar asuda, v'didei habu yadayim hozamhos, v'tzorik litol yodav kodam birkas hamazon. Says the Shulchan Aruch, a person who is an istanis, in English I think they translate that as a fastidious individual, and he is generally he washes his hands after a meal, because he doesn't like to have anything on his hands from the meal. He has an obligation to do so before Birkas Hamazon. This, in other words, this obligation would apply to him as well. Now the Mishnah Berurah says on this phrase that the Shulchan Aruch said, there are those who are accustomed not to wash mayim achronim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, why is it that they have this custom? The reason that they don't wash is because, truth to be told, we don't have melech sedomis today. We don't find it. Umishum yadayim mezohamos ein choshishin. Oy va'achshav ein makpidim l'rakson v'lichlu chamachol ein ze kori zuam olanu. And what about the fact that the hands are dirty from the food that he ate? Shouldn't he have to wash on that account? The fact that the person doesn't wash his hands, even though his hands have something on them from the Suda, is an indication that he doesn't regard it as being unclean. He doesn't regard his hands as being filthy. Okay, so if so, then that would be his. That would be the response of those who have this custom not to wash my machronim.
Rabbi,
yeah.
I'm just wondering, the way you're reading this, could it be that it's saying that he's not worried that his hands are dirty, not because they have food on them and he doesn't care about it, but rather because he uses a knife and a fork and he feels that they don't have any food on them.
No, he says, if you read the words carefully, Hoil ba'akshav ein makpidim l'rachson milichluch hamachol. Here he says very clearly what it is that we're talking about over here. This word is a bit of a unusual word, yadayim mezuhamos. But here he says very clearly, since today the person is not makpid to wash his hands from the lichluch hamachol. There's lichluch of machol on his hands. Lichluch means remains of the food on his hands. Lichluch means something which is not clean. It's dirty. It's yucky. He has yucky hands. But
it's dirt from the food.
It's not a spiritual tumah over here because he ate food. He has actual lichluch on his hands. Lichluch from the food on his hands.
What was it in the previous sentence that it said he wasn't worried about? He wasn't koshing.
He says, Mishum Yodayim Mezohamos. Because of this matter of Yodayim Mezohamos, that we said in any case, even if there's no Melech Sodomis, the Mishnah Berurah said, you still should have to wash your hands because your hands are we call them Yodayim Mezohamos. They are hands that, they're not clean. They're not clean.
He's not worried about that.
He's not worried about that. Why is he not worried about that? Because we see that he doesn't wash his. We see that he's not concerned about it because he goes right ahead and he says his bracha without caring about the fact that he has lichluch hamachol on his hands.
And what is zuhama?
So therefore we say it's not regarded by him. Ein zeh korui zuhama lanu. We see that this is not called zuhama. It's not called uncleanliness, because we see that people don't mind to have this on their hands. That's the proof that it's not unclean, because people don't mind to have it on their hands.
I see.
Now he brings the gra. Das agra, gon mi Vilna, the beuroi, it's sorikly told gam ha'ibna. So the Mishnah Berurah over here is bringing the view of the Vilna Gaon, and the Vilna Gaon says very clearly in his glosses on the Shulchan Aruch that one is required to wash even in our days. The Vilna Gaon is 200 years ago. 200? Something like that. 200, 250. The Tam Melech Sedoimis V'Yadayim Mazohamos Gam Ata Shayach. Moshe Kasavnu B'Sif Aleph.
What is shayach?
Relevance. Now what?
So he's saying even though there's no salt of Sodom, the dirtiness is relevant.
We'd have to look up this Vilna Gaon. It sounds like he's saying that the Vilna Gaon holds that the reason of Melech Sodomus, to be careful about Melech Sodomus, is still relevant today.
Oh,
Ukamoshe Kasavnu Bisif Aleph. And this is like we wrote in Sif Aleph. So in other words, both of these reasons are today shayach. They are current and relevant even for us today. Melech Sodomis, number one, and number two, Yadayim Mazohamos. Hands which have lichluch on the machol are Yadayim Mazohamos, and the fact that the person is not particular about it to clean his hands off before he benches is not a sufficient explanation to say that therefore we don't regard his hands as being unclean. Vilna Gaon doesn't buy that argument. The King Kosev Amogan Avram, B'Shem HaMikubalim, the Kol Adam Yizaher B'Mayim Achronim. Mogen Avram, the major commentator on the Shulchan Aruch, writes in the name of the Kabbalists that every person has to be very careful with Mayim Achronim to make sure that he fulfills this mitzvah. V'kein hechmir hamarshal b'yam shel Shlomo. And so concurs the Yam Shel Shlomo, or Shlomo Luria, one of the earlier authorities. V'kein kosav Abirkei Yosef. And so too the Chachmei Sfarad. The Poskei Sfarad also concur as well. Ayin sham shehechmir harbeh b'zeh. In fact, take a look over there, and you will see that he is very stringent in this matter. Now, so the weight of the authority is over here that Mayim Achronim should be performed. Okay. Okay, so it's a that's the story. That's a little bit of the story.
can I ask another question on Mayim Achronim?
Yeah.
So it's customary to pass out this tiny little cup, and people will take the cup and they'll just touch to their fingertips and spread the water around on their fingertips, kind of like this. Only really touching the fingertips, because if you do more than that, you're going to run out of water.
Oh, because the cup is like this
The
big.
cup is like this big. Yeah, right, exactly. And so I can see that for the Melech Sodom, that might be fine because you're only worried about the fingertips having the salt and touching the eyes. But the other reason, the dirtiness, my understanding is that you need to wash really up to the knuckles, up to here. So what is your understanding about that?
Yeah, this is further in the Shulchan Aruch that he talks about exactly how to do the mitzvah. He says over here. The Shulchan Aruch says, "Ein sark litol ela ad perek sheni shel etzbos." You only need to wash up until the second section of the finger.
What does that mean? Does that mean to here or does that mean to here?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Second, okay, second joint, yeah.
Let's see. Mr. Brewer says, at Perek Sheni, Shalamala Mishnei Pirkei Etzbaos Ein Magia Lichluch Hamachal. Because the whole idea, says the Mishnah Brewer, is to remove the lichluch of the machal, the dirtiness of the remains of the food on his hands. And beyond that point, the Mishnah Brewer claims the dirtiness of the food does not reach. But he says, "Ve'im haya hamachal magia mikan ve'elech." If he has a lichluch of machal on his hands, which goes beyond that point of the second parak of the finger. Sorry, rechitza gam lamala. So obviously, so then he needs to rinse and wash that area as well. And then the Mishnah Berurah says, "Bara alai hamasa shari'isi," and it is evil to me, this matter that I see. Sheyesh anashim asher hema zehirim b'netilas mayim achronim. They are, he says there are people who they are very careful to wash mayim achronim. Aval einam yotzim choybas adin klal uklal, but they don't fulfill the obligation of the halacha at all. The einam nosnim ki'im eza tipim mayim al roshe etzbos. All they do is put a few drops of water on the end of their finger. Ad asher afilu ad sof perek harishon einam magas. It doesn't even reach the first parak of the finger. Ulafamim yotzim b'negia ba'alma b'mayim yedehem nisharim metunafos mizuhamos hamachol karishona. And sometimes they consider themselves having done their obligation just by giving a little touch to the water, and their hands remain with the dirtiness and the filth of the food on them. Ube'emes min adin sarich lirchotz lefachot ad sof shnei pirkei etzbos. And the truth is that according to the halacha, one needs to do exactly like what the Shulchan Aruch says, that at the very least he has to wash until the second perik of the finger. So you want to know what the second perik of the finger is. I would assume that on a finger, right, you have this perik over here, and you have this perik over here. So in other words, I would understand that really covers the entire finger before you get to the palm of the hand.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's said in the name of the Vilna Gaon that the Vilna Gaon, in washing my Machronim, he did exactly the same washing that he did for my Rishonim.
Right.
He would go and just wash his hands all the way, in other words, until this part of the hand. In other words, not only the fingers but the entire hand.
Okay, it's 11:32.
Okay,
I will see you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Thank you,
all
Rabbi.
right. We say goodbye to Meir and goodbye
Okay.
to Alan for the day.
Good day. Very
Everybody,
good.
Bracha v'atzlacha.
Amen. Okay.
Be well. We'll
Be
see you
well,
soon.
everyone.
All right. See you soon.